Hi. Punjab is struggling as of this moment. It's in the midst of a serious power crisis. There is also a crisis of raw material for industry and essential items needed for paddy procurement like gunny bags. All are running out because trains are not plying to Punjab. No passenger trains since the 24th of September. Goods trains and freight trains have not been plying to the state since the 1st of October, when 30 farm unions started an indefinite rail roko or a rail blockade on at least 33 locations. They sat on railway tracks and platforms. Now, the railways have come out publicly and made it clear they can't resume just the goods trains as the agitating protesters want. In a virtual press conference, the Railway Board chairman also said that the state, and by which he meant Punjab, can't pick and choose and tell them which trains to run and on which tracks. It's an important story that's got cursory media attention. There are some serious questions at play here, and I'll try and unpack them for you. I'm Anubha Bhonsle, and I believe this story is newsworthy, so stick with us. Let's rewind to the time when the central government passed those three agricultural bills in Parliament without too much discussion, too much debate, and quorum. The Akali Dal, their allies at the time, left the government and farmers came out in protest, not just in Punjab but in many other parts of the country. In Punjab, where agriculture is mainstay and farmers do get the benefits of the minimum support price or the MSP, the central government's explanations that nothing was going to change, the MSP was going to stay, all of this did not cut ice. On the 1st of October, farm groups, about 33 different affiliations, started this Rail Roko Abhiyan that I spoke about. Supplies started getting affected as protests brought passenger trains, goods trains, and freight trains to a standstill. That's when, on the 20th of October, the Amrinder Singh government brought its own three bills to negate the centre's laws. And by doing so, it became the first state to do so. Now, no political party in Punjab can be seen to be anti-farmer. So Punjab's bills were also aimed at getting the farmers to relent just a little bit and let those supplies come in. Sections of protesting farmers actually accepted the Punjab government's appeal since the state was in a precarious stock situation. They moved away from railway tracks and platforms to other locations. They allowed goods trains to ply, but passenger trains were still not allowed. In fact, trains did resume for a day or two, I think on the 22nd of October, but then they stopped again. The central government refused to resume this service using the ruse that some farmers were still protesting on tracks. Now, this was not entirely untrue. One group of the Bharatiya Kisan Union, Ugrahan, sat on tracks that led to private thermal power plants, thus obviously affecting coal supplies. The railways and the central government had been asking for complete removal of all people from all places and an assurance of no disruption. Now, oddly, it's this second protest, the one that was close to thermal power plants, that brought this entire matter into headlines because coal stocks became precariously low and the Punjab government asked the farmers to go slow a bit, to step back. Farmers were also losing out because of non-supply of fertilizers. That's when this entire matter came to Delhi, when on the 5th of November, Railway Minister Piyush Goyal had a meeting with the Punjab MPs. Now, the latter walked out of that meeting saying the minister was simply unrelenting, and their accusation was that the central government was arm twisting them into accepting the new farm laws by stopping trains and by cutting off access. Their claim, their words, that Mr. Goyal said to them, he will not run the trains if we do not support the farm laws. There has been no official response to this allegation, but trains are yet to start, even though protesting farmers say tracks are clear and have pretty much been so for the last 40 days. In fact, the railways have also completed their track maintenance, etc., in case parts of the tracks were vandalized by the protesters. But that green signal has still not come. In a sharp press conference, the Railway Board's chairman said that the states can't pick and choose or dictate to the railways which trains to run on which tracks. He also said that the agitating farmers and the Punjab government were in a sense speaking in one voice. They've been stressing that they just want the goods trains and not the passenger trains. The railway said, no sir, that's not how it works. If the tracks are clear, they're clear both for freight and for passenger trains. Now, hard to argue with that logic, right? But is this just the railways talking, or is this the government? Let's look at the crux of this story. Is the centre being stubborn or arm twisting Punjab into accepting the farm bills, or at least diluting the farmers' agitation by not resuming trains and cutting off supplies? Number 2, can the railways really be blamed for not wanting to ply without a clear, explicit assurance of no disruptions? Haven't trains actually plied in this country even amidst agitations? What about the Railway Board's statement that states cannot tell us which trains to ply and which to not? That's fair, right? But remember, who holds the trump card here? The centre, because they hold the control of the railways. Perhaps the engines would start when the minister gives the green signal. Lastly, let's remember the politics of Punjab, where the BJP's presence is minuscule. Now, without an ally in that state, this issue has allowed them to stir the pot. Over the last few months, centre-state relations on a whole host of issues, more prominently the GST, have brought things to a brink. Once again here, perhaps the centre's keeping the pressure on. Meanwhile, the story also is that Punjab is on the brink, facing power cuts and outages and crucial impact to its economy. Many state leaders are now coming out and saying clearly that the centre's attitude is a dangerous, stubborn one. I'll leave it here. If you've been watching, thank you for your time. And before we go, if you're watching this on YouTube, do subscribe to the channel.